Welcome and food for thought. Today, with Maestro Frymatic, I am talking about hackathons. I've got no idea, so I invited an expert. So, what is a hackathon?
Okay, so first off, thank you for having me on Food for Thought. I think the best way to describe a hackathon is with an analogy. And so I'll use a food analogy. There's been a number of competitive cooking shows in the past. One of my favorites was Iron Chef. And so hackathon is a lot like Iron Chef. And so Iron Chef is pretty simple. You have a limited amount of time, a kitchen full of ingredients, a special ingredient, like a secret ingredient that you don't know about ahead of time. And then there's a panel of judges that judge your result. And so there's a few contestants on Iron Chef. I think it's usually 3 to 4 or something like that. And then by the end of the show, they have produced whatever they're going to produce. Judges try it all and decide who is the winner of Iron Chef. And so I think it's like a half hour, maybe an hour long show. I think they condense it down for TV's sake, but they're cooking for like an hour or two or something like that. And then, someone will come out with like a 12-course meal, but maybe the winner does like a 3-course thing because they put so much of effort or ingenuity into 2 or 3 things instead of, going mediocre on 12 things. But so hackathon's similar, only it's in kind of like the software space. Now, hackathons started in the late 90s and really took off in terms of popularity in the 2000s. They are typically held, kind of in like the kitchen, as it were, of Iron Chef. The kitchen is like an exposition floor, a place where a bunch of people can pack in, either to, compete with teams or against all the rest of the teams. And then it'll be like, a day or 2 or something like that. With the pandemic, the hackathons moved almost entirely online. And so they were being held on Slack or Microsoft Teams or Discord. And then they were interesting because they could become global now. So people didn't have to be in the same room. They didn't have to travel to get to the thing. They just had to get onto the right Slack workspace or Discord server or something. And so I did a few with some people out of Discord server that Kara and I are both a part of, that has kind of since gone to the wayside. Lex Friedman's server. He has a podcast and he had a server. Phil put it together. Phil, let's revive that thing.
Yeah,
The time is
let's
now.
revise that thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I met some people. We did some smaller ones, but then I got recruited to a group that was doing one with the UN. And in 2021, the UN was partnered sort of as a sponsor with this group called Hackmakers. And I was tagged on to a group so that I would help make the video. And we ended up in the winner's circle. We did this thing with like ultrasound probes that were in like machine learning, so that you could, without any training, be able to use one of these cheap new ultrasound probes. Time was they'd be like $100,000. Now they're $1,000. And so we made a thing so that if you used one, it'd be able to tell you like, this person has COVID, this person doesn't. And then you don't have to work with someone who's got the required license, which takes like 2 years or something. One thing led to another, and I ended up in this group called Smart Cities, and we started doing public safety stuff. So a hackathon, much like Iron Chef, was, a time-backed event. You have limited time. You've got whatever you can work with on in terms of like software development, and then usually some sort of secret ingredient. So the UN ones are always with this company called Oracle. It's database stuff. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. Done a handful of them, and then we won the last one.
Yeah, so tell me about the last one. So it was for the World Innovation Day, right?
Yeah, so
Like,
that first one I was talking about where we did the ultrasound thing, the UN actually was involved then, but it's organized around an international holiday called World Innovation Day. It's April 21st every year. And then that was like the holiday that the hackathon was based around. And so this year, Hackmakers ran it again. though the UN wasn't involved in the actual production this time. So it was still World Innovation Day, and then it was still with Oracle and whatnot. But this time the theme was, well, there were two things. One was data for good, and then the other was GPT for good. We worked in the GPT category because everyone knows Chat GPT. It's taking the world by storm. So we focused on that.
So if I understand correctly, you guys have a table of ingredients analogy. In case of the actual hackathon, your team is from all over the world, but you guys played on the internet. How does it look like?
Like I said, we met on Discord, Kara and I, but there's something a little older than Discord that's pretty common called Slack. Slack is just like, multi-channel chat interface that has, some WebRTC stuff, real-time communications. So you can do like voice stuff and video stuff, much like Discord. And then it's good for like sharing files and having different channels for different projects and different organizations and stuff like that. And so it was a Slack this year. Last year was a Discord. It's been, I don't know, drifts between, depends on who's sponsoring that year.
And the team, you have GPT Squad, right?
Yeah.
From all over the world. How was that? Like, did you meet them just like recently, or was it like a team that you know for a couple months at least?
The gal who put it together, I want to give her proper reading of all her titles. Okay, so the first year I did the UN Hackathon, I was on a team that had a number of people from Europe, and then there was a gal from Africa, from Yaoundé, Cameroon. And so her name is Danielle Alice Desange Ocean Tiam Mecca de Guggenheim. She was our captain this year. We've been on a number of teams. She put the team together. Our team was her as the captain in Cameroon. And then we had a guy in Pakistan, another guy in Mexico, another guy in New York. I'm in California. And then I brought another Californian in, the guy that co-hosts with me for Python thing. Oh, bless you. Good job muting. It was pretty cool. Basically did most of our work over Zoom. The outcome was, or rather the required output was a YouTube video and then a code base for whatever you built. We also had to do stuff with the secret ingredients. There were 3 different secret ingredients available. You got points based on how much you used each. There were 3 and we only used 2 of them, but it seemed to be enough because in the end we won.
What is a secret ingredient in a hackathon?
So a secret ingredient in the hackathon would be a database software where you're storing the data that's going to whatever you make, usually some sort of app. Maybe it's a web app or a mobile app. Another one was a thing where if you draw a picture, it will spit out a whole app. And so we used that one too. There was another one that was Chat GPT, but for business ideas. I think it was called Wand AI. We didn't use that one because we already had kind of a business idea from continuation of that first thing I talked about in smart cities.
And if I understand correctly, you only allowed to use the resources that are, let's say, at the table, right?
Yeah, which is the table is the internet. And so, you can't use something that you bought and just turn that in like it's something new. But, there's a lot of open source software. There's a lot of scientific research out there. There are a lot of organizations that are trying to do things and don't have, a technical solution to their problem. We kind of try to combine as much of that as possible. Usually the ingredients are something you'd probably spend a good amount of money using. And so that's kind of why I do it, is you get to play with toys that otherwise would be, expensive.
I want to ask the group hack makers.
Mhm.
Why do they sound like hackers somehow?
Because it's a hackathon. They are.
I mean, but like the good guys, like the good hackers, or like
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people think of hackers as identity theft people or information security penetration testers or something like that, something salacious.
Mm-hmm.
But a hack goes back to early engineering days. And it's basically you look at the manual, you look at the spec, and you say, okay, this wasn't intended, but I bet I could get this thing to happen if I did some things. Yeah. It's not like a bad thing. Like people will say, like, oh, I got hacked. It's like, no, you got phished is what you did. And someone got control of your account and now you're locked out, or maybe your account posted a bunch of things or you got banned or something like that. A phish is a hack. A phish is salacious, where a hack can be good, it can be bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's I think it for today.
Cool.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, please check out the links below. Perhaps next time we will talk in depth about the actual project.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye.
Got it.